Now we have gone through this one, and if you have come till here, now you're going to learn something which is going to establish whatever knowledge you got and really make it to your natural habit. That's the topic what we're going to do it. You got into your ideas, you know what to do, and you know how to do it, and how to do it big and consistently. So now we are looking at how correlated all these three aspects of beautiful entrepreneurship mindset is to your brain and what it does for your brain from the latest brain research what we have got from our scientists. That's exactly what you're going to get to know, and you'll start appreciating more about it. So you got a brilliant brain, there's no doubt about it. And you know that when you are happy and you have accomplished something, there are happy hormones like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins which release. Those are called happy hormones. They make you feel light, good, enthusiastic, joyful. That's all about being effortless and being joyful in your entrepreneurship, isn't it? And that's what you're seeking as well. With all the other financial rewards, the power, the kind of recognition, and the value creation, the happiness, there are lots and lots of advantages of being an entrepreneur. So these are the happy hormones you get. So it helps your brain to do really better. These are the hormones which are actually released in your bodies when you start working on certain things and start completing the aspects of what you set out to do. Go ahead and do it, and once you complete, these are the happy hormones you get. Even the journey will be beautiful, the results will be even more beautiful, and then you'll get on to the other things. On the other side, what happens when you go into a monotonous cycle and you don't like yourself, you don't like your probably thought process, how you feel and how you act, is it triggers, the brain triggers something called as a cortisol, a hormone which actually is released by adrenal glands, which makes you feel sad, heavy, and a little bit of sorrow, and a little bit of confusion of why things are not working for me, why me, or sometimes even victimhood. All these things will bring to something called as cortisol. Now, when we know that the activity of the brain itself releases hormones, we should start appreciating those are real. It's not just about think positive or think other things. When you feel good, it keeps your health great. On the other hand, if you feel sad, sorrow for a continuous period, there are certain issues which come into that, and because of that chronic stress, many systemic issues, whether it is diabetes or hypertension or any other of cardiac ailments and other things, starts. The precursor for all these things is the stress and these hormones which are coming. So obviously, your choice is this because you have a strong mindset, you have an effortless mindset, and that is going to do wonders for you, both health wise as well as your satisfaction, real inner satisfaction wise. So let's look into what happens when the cortisol comes into look into. You have one worrying thought, let's say that it continues for an entire day or probably for a few weeks, or for some people with chronic mental illness for months together. It can convert into anxiety and depression and other things. So, how to combat it? Be aware of one small thing and it will work on. See, there will be some stress. It should be accepted. No one will be 100% stress free. It's okay to have a little stress. But identifying the factor of stress and looking into it and correcting it is all about your mindset, isn't it? I'll give a simple example. If there is a bottle and I'm carrying it for let's say for about 10 seconds, I can easily do it, isn't it? What happens if the bottle is full of water and I carry it for half an hour? I start feeling pain because my arm is there and other things. What happens if I keep it for 1 hour? I almost get kind of paralyzed, isn't it? If you consider this as a worrying thought, the more the time you hold it, it becomes a problem to you, isn't it? So all you have to do is probably, water bottle is a wrong analogy, but you quench your thirst and drop your negative thought. So that's about it. That's about it. You do get context and interactions or situations where it is there. You solve it, you manage it, you solve it or you manage it, and you ensure that you get rid of it. You get rid of it and get into your action mode of moving towards your goal. Every action, every step what you take, you have to just consider one thing. Is it taking towards my goal or away from my goal? Simple. Every thought, feeling, and action, whatever you do, is it taking you towards your goal or away from your goal? The moment you know how to reach your short-term goal, you can reach many, many goals as well, and that's the journey you're going to going to experience, and that's what you have chosen for. So, when we look into the other aspect of it, the latest brain research says something like, when it talks about a few important aspects of a very successful entrepreneur, is about the one is what you speak in the communication part of it. Is what you speak and what you write is another very important part of it, and how you express your ideas. So all these come under communication, isn't it? So every entrepreneur is brilliant in communication. He knows he is a very active listener. He expresses and he becomes articulate. How does it come? Over practice. You can start from where you are. You can definitely keep improving more and more. You might be already good, but you still have room for improvement. So that's the communication. So what basically is communication when you apply it to your teams as well as yourself sometimes is, there is one beautiful quote which says, you just can't communicate. Anything you do or don't do sends out a message. That means if I'm completely saying that I'm very active, the body doesn't lie, the eyes don't lie, my words may be lying, isn't it? So anything, if I'm not interested, it's very clear. The message is out. It need not be expressed only in words, isn't it? So anything you do or you don't do will send out a message to you. So basically you are communicating all the time. We may say, okay, I'm not talking, I'm not communicating. No, your complete life is about communication. It is communicating everyday basis. It definitely sends out messages. In the very similar way of communication, even your brain is active always. You may think I'm not thinking, so my brain is not active. No, that doesn't work for brain. It is proved by the latest brain research that your brain is active even when you are thoughtlessness, even when you are meditating, even when you are resting, even when you are in deep sleep, your brain is active. And the beauty of the brain is that it's highly adaptable, what we call it as neuroplasticity. It's the ability of the brain to actually uncover and reorganize the neurons the way it has to, it is exposed to or it is expressing. So it's highly plastic. So the brain does change. Right from your childhood to today as well as adult, it really keeps changing. That's a good news, isn't it? Even if you're adult, it keeps changing. It keeps changing based on how you think, feel and act. How you think, feel and act. So it keeps changing. The question is, it can change in the positive way and it can change in the negative way as well. But it keeps changing. Like communication, it keeps sending messages. The brain is always active and it also keeps changing. So how does that work? So if you get a new information, now you come to this part of the course, that clearly means you have got some new information, a few ideas which you're going to implement immediately. That means your brain is not the same what it was probably yesterday or day before. Any new information changes the chemical structures, which is called as neurons. There are changes in neurons. But there are some people, it gets into your short-term memory. Once you start practicing, there are structural changes of neurons. Think this is a neuron and there will be structural changes of neuron and how they interact with each other. When you start practicing a new skill or new information, then there are structural changes of this one. Okay, and once there are chemical changes by any new information, there are structural changes through practice, and once you practice more, there are different neurons which will make it functional and the brain changes. So many times it happens simultaneously, the chemical, the structural and the functional. And let me tell you how it works. Chemical is just information, it's short-term memory. When you practice, you know that there are structural changes and you are good at that. But if you don't practice large doses of practice, it doesn't become functional. I'll give you an example. The chemical changes is now you know how to drive a car. The chemical changes is knowing about, okay, this is accelerator, this is brake, this is clutch, this is the steering, and this is how I can ride it. This is my car. I can ride it wherever I set my mind towards. Okay, that's chemical, and this is how the car functions. There is an engine and other things. That's the information. But now let's say that you go for a driving school to learn driving, and over there you practice, okay, this is so and so, but now you're moving. Now you realize, and your muscle memory gets into it, and you know that once I press my accelerator, the car moves fast. Once I press my clutch, I can change my gears. Or once put a brake, the vehicle is going to stop. You get to know, and you also experience. This is not just information. Because of practice, you are getting into it. Now, over a period of time, it has become so innate. You have done it so many times. You don't even think. You just play music. You will have a joyful ride. That means you have reached a functional stage. The sorry part of many people who are potential is many times they stop at chemical level. They don't move to the structural level. Even if they move to the structural level, if they drive only for, let's say, 5 kilometers in the driving schools, still, and give a huge gap, even that long-term memory is going to evaporate. So always you have to get into the chemical. Think that they, as an entrepreneur, you'll be thinking, I'll be making this skill structural and functional. That's the same way you're going to coach your team members as well. When you do it for yourself and you coach your team members, you will build strong organizations. And this is how exactly the brain before and after the skills is not the same. It has changed. It has changed. It does not happen only for motor skills. It happens even in cognitive skills. There are three stages. So the moment you are at the chemical level, you should understand, I should get into structural and functional level. The functional level is mastery, the mastery, which requires large doses of practice. Once you do a large doses of practice, it becomes innate. It becomes your natural habit, and then you need not worry about it. So that is neuroplasticity for you. So the moment now the brain, after learning neuroplasticity, is also not the same brain. It has changed right now. From the past 10 minutes or 15 minutes, it has actually changed. Let me tell you how things work on the other hand. There is something called a SPECT imaging, which shows your brain age and the health of your brain. Think that this is a cross-sectional of brain, and these red areas are usually when you go with guilt or some negative thoughts or something which is not very dear to your heart, or you're doing something